Hi, everyone, and welcome to part 6. This is the negative impact of emotions in business, and I'm looking today at unexpressed sadness. Now, today's session is going to be 35 minutes with 5 minutes Q&A, and I aim to, number one, help you to assess the negative impact of emotions in your business and whether unexpressed sadness is something that impacts you. Number two, I want to raise your awareness of how this stops entrepreneurs from developing and growing. It stops your business growing. You become the weakest link, in my opinion. And number three, I want to provide 5 practical strategies that will help you to reverse the impact of unexpressed emotions. So just a little bit about me. I'm an emotional intelligence coach and I'm also a mentor. I'm a qualified psychotherapist and I do EQ coaching. I'm an author too. In 2021, I released a book called Navigating Stress. It was published just during that COVID period when everybody needed some tips and some advice on how to navigate that. Today, I work with business owners and entrepreneurs who want to be psychologically strong and avoid financial loss, emotional distress, and feelings of wanting to give up when we have that emotional and mental head trash. Because I do believe you don't grow the business, you grow the owner. Now, let's do an assessment quickly. Do you experience the impact of unexpressed sadness within your business? I've got a scale here of 1 to 10. Now, if it's a 1 because you don't experience that, then put it down that end of the scale. If it's a lot because you do acknowledge unexpressed sadness being present in your business, then it's going to be a 10. And if you could drop that in the chat, it'd be lovely to see what your scores are as well. And I can see that there are some 7s, some 8s, some 4s, so quite a range. And it's about self-awareness. You know, I'm always talking about self-awareness, so I appreciate that share. Now, entrepreneurs, they have feelings too. Absolutely do. We pretend that we don't, but there are 6 major feelings that we're always going to have: fear, anger, joy, sadness, disgust, or surprise. And today I'm picking on sadness. We can also have other feelings such as overwhelm, anxiety, disappointment, guilt, shame, and loneliness. And of course, there are a lot more beyond that, but these are the 12 that jumped out for me. And the big question is, do entrepreneurs need to acknowledge the impact of the word loss within their business? And we experience risk, we experience profits, we experience loss. Where do we fit that into our own vocabulary? If you're experiencing any of these, then you do experience loss. We've got sadness, we've got grief, we've got regret, we've got unmet expectations, we've got failure. You know, you took a risk and it didn't work out, and there's loss in different forms, like a client, like your sales team, or just loss of a sale. It could be anything. But if you're experiencing some of those, then perhaps you'll come to the conclusion that yes, sadness does play a role within your business. Because when you feel sad, do you find that you push things away or you pull things towards you? It's something that we do automatically. You might find yourself resisting doing something, or you might find yourself in a place of acceptance. Or the other alternative is you might avoid conflict, or you might move towards it and confront it. So there's a push and pull kind of mechanism happening, and you might not be aware of it. So, dear entrepreneur, do you avoid getting sad because you've heard some of these statements? Big boys, big girls don't cry, and they certainly don't wallow. And stop being a crybaby, or just man up. Now, I've heard all of those, and the man up one is quite interesting when aimed at women, but you know, we use these terms between different sexes. It's interchangeable. I've heard all of these, and how we handle this sadness will have a major knock-on effect on us and those around us. I hope you're still with me, so I'm going to continue. Let's take a deeper dive. Dear entrepreneur, I want you to take a slice of the sadness pie. And it looks like this. Take a slice if things are going wrong, or things are not going to plan the way that you predicted it, or there's an unexpected crisis, not living up to expectations, chastising yourself, or you could be chastising somebody else. You might notice that there's shame, guilt, pride, ego, and they've all taken a bit of a knock. and you're living in a place of disappointment and regret or frustration. So take a bit of this pie if you've experienced any of those. And I would say that's a slice of the sadness pie. Now, when we have sadness around, it also involves the presence of fear. And that is the real or the imagined feeling of threat. It activates our body stress response and it makes us really vigilant and on guard. It's also where anxiety lives too. And we tend to move away from things, away from the enemy when we're in this place. It's about self-preservation and it's about self-protection. And sadness involves the loss of something that you value. Now, that could be a range of things. It could be your possessions, it could be people, it could be money, it could be your business, it could be lifestyle, it could be environment, it could be health, it could be reputation, it could be status. A lot of things could induce sadness. As I said, it depends on what you value. And it could sound like this. I can't deal with the struggle of trying to handle my disappointment, frustration, or this situation anymore. It can actually look like apathy. It can make you feel tired. It can make you want to give up. There's this overlap between burnout and this feeling, so pay attention to that too. Sadness tells us to withdraw, to protect ourselves, to stay safe. It really is a protection mechanism. And you might think that sadness equals loss or grief, or sadness is only anxiety and depression, or sadness is only burnout and clinical depression. Well, you'd be wrong on all of those counts if you thought that that was a definition of sadness. It's a part of it. So loss, grief, anxiety, depression, burnout, and clinical depression are all signs that there's something going on that you need to pay attention to. In fact, I think that sadness is a mask for much deeper issues. Let's take a look at this iceberg. Now, this is the fear iceberg, but I think it does equally well if we transpose the word and put in sadness, because what you have is 1/9 above the waterline and another 9/10 below the waterline. And this is where a lot of other feelings are actually present. Things like feeling scared, anxious, worried, excluded, rejected, or exposed, feeling inferior. Other feelings could be around, I feel helpless, overwhelmed, I feel worthless, I feel insignificant, I feel weak, I feel frightened. So on the surface, it might just appear as sadness, but I know that there's a lot going on below the waterline. And I hope you're still with me, and I'm going to continue. So why does sadness happen in business? Well, there's lots of external world triggers. I've got 7 here for the moment. Number 1, economic downturns. We're dealing with the effects of a recession or an economic slowdown. It could be number 2, political or social instability, external events that create uncertainty or disrupt business. Number 3, global pandemics. Now, we've been through something already, haven't we, in terms of health crisis? Business operations could be affected, personal life can be affected, and your mental health. Number 4, there's unfavorable market trends. Now, we're always changing trends, and you have to be on your toes in terms of what's in fashion, what's not in fashion. Customer behavior and the trends are something that negatively affects businesses. So be on your toes, pay attention to those. That's an external trigger, another one that I think is really important. Number 5, natural disasters. Now, business disruptions happen, but we can't predict the natural events like fire, floods, like storms, tornadoes, and we're having a few of those at the moment. Number 6, technological changes. We've got rapid advancements in technology that require costly adaptations. We're in the middle of one with AI. It's just the beginning. And a lot of us are having to adapt to what that's going to mean for us and what skills we have to take on board, how we're going to change the way that we operate. The last one in this section is supplier issues. What problems that do you have with suppliers or vendors? They can affect the way that your business operates. So it's a knock-on effect, really, isn't it? You need them. They're supplying you with materials for what you do. If they have problems, then you have problems too. Now, I want to take a look at the internal company triggers that can happen. There are 7 here as well. Let's look at financial struggles. That's cash flow problems or lack of profitability. Number two, there's client loss. When we lose a long-term or an important client, it can be a real blow. And it can also be applied to just losing any other valuable opportunity. Number three is employee turnover. Now, a high turnover is not great for business because you've got the high cost of recruitment, which sometimes is higher than the salary of the person that's just left, or just losing a really key member, a really valued member of the team. Number four, leadership pressures. That constant pressure to lead and make tough decisions and always appear to be in charge. Isn't that an absolute burden? Number five is poor sales performance, declining sales or missed revenue targets. We're in business to make money, so this can be a real downer for us. Number six, failure to achieve goals, not hitting those milestones that you want to or the objectives, and perhaps living in a place of regret, regretting what you didn't do and the opportunities that you missed. Number seven in this section is negative feedback. That's harsh criticism from your clients, from your employees, from social media, from anywhere that you really don't want to hear it. And you might pretend on the surface that it hasn't affected you. We can do that, but internally, we are registering it as stress. The third final thing I want to look at is just personal triggers that can induce sadness. Number one, the lack of purpose, questioning the purpose and the meaning of life. That can be a long one, but yeah, that happens. Number two, relationship strain. There's conflict or neglect within your personal relationships. Number three, you're missing out on life events, your own personal milestones, your family milestones, friends. You're missing out on what makes life good. I think that's what life is really all about, relationships, but that's me. Number five, feeling unappreciated. No one seems to be noticing the value that you're bringing to them. That's your personal partner, your wife, husband, your children, other family members. You just feel unappreciated in your personal life. Number six, overwhelm. You're juggling far too many responsibilities and tasks at home and also at work, trying to make those two work together. Number seven, burnout. That's that prolonged stress and the emotional exhaustion that comes when we're in that space. Number eight, there's the lack of life balance. And I didn't say work-life balance or life-work balance, just balance. You know, we have one life and we fill it with things. Work, and hopefully valuable work, happens to be one of them. But when you're unable to balance those two parts of your life, personal and business, there can be a problem. Number nine is emotional baggage. Now, that's unresolved issues that may be coming from the past. And that's a long one, but if that's happening, you may need to speak to someone who's qualified to deal with that. And of course, you know that I do both. I'm a therapist and a coach. Now, does any of this sound familiar? I hope it is, because ultimately, sadness impacts our performance and productivity. It just gives us less access to high quality thinking, impacts our energy. We just don't have enough sometimes to power our brain. The brain is a very power hungry little thing. And if we're devoting time to other biological processes, we don't have enough thinking power. And the last one is it impacts your profits and the bottom line. We end up making mistakes, making wrong decisions or no decision. We miss opportunities. There's poor communication with our peers and our clients. We're just not available for that beneficial connection. So I do hope you're getting the picture. And the picture is it's okay to feel sad. Ultimately, you will learn your own emotional code. And I think it's a message in a bottle. Now, I'm going to refer you to a track that I like by a group called The Police, and the lead artist was Sting. It was a song that was released in 1979, one of my favorites, actually. A message in a bottle. Definitely. What is that message in the bottle? Susan David, who is the author of Emotional Agility, said that our raw feelings can be the messengers that we need to teach us things about ourselves, and it can prompt some insights into the important life directions. Now, I do have some free resources. I have dropped that in the comment section at the top of the chat box. If you can't see it, please contact me and let me know that you want that. One, there's the 6 negative thinking patterns and habits. Very important to understand that. And the other one is the 40 negative thoughts that are bad for business. That's a good read. You might see yourself reflected in some of those answers. And definitely, as I said, contact me on LinkedIn or my email if you need that. Because you don't grow the business, you grow the owner. And I'm trying to give you some points and some ways of guiding yourself through this. So I do hope you're still with me because I'm going to move on. Let's take a deep dive and look at the solutions. There's a life script, there's a movie that we're all playing out, and it involves this cycle where we're thinking, feeling, and we're acting. So thoughts, emotions, actions, or thoughts, emotions, behaviors. But there's a cycle that's happening there, and we have to recognize that. Also, I want you to start connecting the emotional dots. Again, you can put those on a cycle. Sadness and loss is what I'm looking at today, but there's also going to be the cycle that you're going to get into with overwhelm, doubt and worry and disappointment. It is on this cycle. Also fear and uncertainty. So they're all very close friends. It's a family of friends, which perhaps we don't always want, but they are beneficial. Being prepared is half the battle. And I've got a first aid kit here. I want you to develop an emotional and mental coping strategy that is unique to you. And the first aid kit will be available as a PDF as well. Please contact me and I'll get that sent to you. Not a problem there. So the first aid kit, what can you find in there? There are 5 things I want you to look at. I want you to notice that you have to interrupt the patterns. If you find yourself stuck in that sadness loop, do something a little unexpected. Yell, clap your hands, take a brisk walk. So just break that emotional pattern and reset it. Now, Tony Robbins, who is obviously a top coach in this personal development field, one of the things that he advocates, I agree with him. Number 2, I want you to change your focus in your language. Ask yourself some empowering questions, better questions like, what can I do right now to feel better? Just a simple question. And also reframe those thoughts. Shift your language away from deep and triggering language, like, I'm devastated about this. Switch it to, I'm facing a challenge and I can handle it. Number 3, get physical movement, whether it's walking, stretching, or quick bursts of energy. Move your body around, shake off the heaviness and the sadness, boost your mood. Now, I know that I do this a lot. I will do star jumps to get me going, just to get energy circulating around my body. I also shake myself. If you've watched an animal shake water off themselves once they've come out of the sea or whatever, they shake. But also animals shake after they've been stuck in a freeze position. So there's fight, flight, and freeze. When we go into freeze mode and we're coming out of it, we start shaking. We can physically shake. We wonder why that happens to us sometimes, but animals, they shake deliberately and they move on. Number 4, take some kind of massive action. It can be the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 that's advocated by Mel Robbins. I pay a lot of attention to what she says. She's not related to Tony Robbins by any means, but they do have the same surname. But sadness can make us feel stuck, and you've got to take immediate, decisive action. It could be just making a call, organizing a task, tackling that problem so you can feel you're regaining control and taking control of your emotional state. And lastly, number 5 is focus on those small wins. I want you to learn to shift your focus by completing the small tasks that are manageable. Even completing a tiny goal can make you feel good because it creates that momentum and can start to move you away from the sadness that you're feeling. Here's some more solutions. The big solution is use your body to control your mind. Control your breathing, slow rhythmic breathing, longer on the out breath if you can. There's no set number, even though you might see numbers written down, because I can't remember those numbers when I'm panicking. So just remember to have an even, steady, rhythmic breathing that is slower than your normal pattern. And if you can make it longer on the out breath, do that too. My solution number 2 is it's okay to create some alone time. This is about self-awareness. You need that space to deconstruct your thinking, your emotions, your behavior cycles, but don't spend too long in that prolonged isolation state. Short time is good, or long time is not, because the mood can become fixed. Solution number three is do the self-soothing, manage your mood. And you know lots of ways to manage your moods, healthy ones, unhealthy ones. Healthy ones can be going for a walk, playing some decent music, have a rest. Unhealthy ones can be turning to alcohols and drugs and other recreational things that we do. I like a little bit of alcohol every now and then, but I realize that's not going to be a long-term solution, not feasible. And number four, everything starts with a thought in my world. You know that. I say it all the time and I'm not going to stop saying it. Cognitive reframing. Change the way that you look at things. It's all about neuroscience as well. The brain can change. We used to believe that the brain couldn't, but now we know that neuroplasticity shows we can learn new things and we can also lose old habits. The the life cycle, the life script, your life movie, it's all playing out with your thoughts and your emotions and your actions. So it's really important that you find a way of having a thought tracking system and get yourself a mood mapping system when it comes to your emotions. With your actions, I want you to look at behavior busting the things that you do that are not helpful. And this cycle between your thinking, your feeling, and your actions, I want you to capture, deconstruct what's happening, and I want you to reconstruct better, more helpful thinking, more helpful emotions, and more helpful actions. Because the emotions are really the chemicals that we have inside our body. They're around for about 90 seconds. So it passes. But we don't remember that. We don't always do that. So anything that we're doing beyond that 90 seconds, we're choosing to hold on to it. We're ruminating. You might not realize that, but try catching yourself in that process. Feel that process happening. Make it mean something more empowering and then let go. I know I'm making it sound easier than it is, but it's possible. And the final solution that I like is spiritual alternatives. That's EFT, emotional freedom, which is tapping the meridian points on your body. There's mindfulness, which you hear a lot about, meditation, affirmation, and mantras. And of course, prayer. People forget about prayer, and it's not always a religious connotation. Prayer is just sending out good vibes to the universe, hoping that good things come back to you. So remember that's something you can definitely do for yourself and listen to those messages. Because what if there were a more permanent and sustainable solution to what is happening to you right now? You may need to change your environment. You may need to do a different activity. You may need to change your relationship. Something does have to give, and I don't want it to be you. Ultimately, human beings were all moving towards the growth zone, whether we like it or not, as the comfort zone, the fear zone, the learning zone, the growth zone. We have to pass through them all. We talk a lot about the comfort zone, but the next one is the fear zone. And I think sadness falls into that because it overlaps with fear. Once you push past that, then you can get into the learning zone and have some good quality, high quality thinking. Once you've done that, then you're growing and you move into the growth zone. I believe that happens. I've seen it happen for myself. I've seen it happen for my clients. So let's redo that assessment. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you experience the impact of unexpressed sadness in your business? So number 1, if it's not at all. Number 10, if it's a lot. And just think about that. Jot that down. I would love to see if your scores have changed. So I'll just check that in the chat and see whether that's changed or not. Some of you say it hasn't. Some of you say it has. Well, you know what? I want you to just become very good at monitoring what's happening for you. That's what this skill is all about, and skill development is all about emotional intelligence. I hope I did what I said I would. Number 1, I helped you to assess the impact of unexpressed sadness within your business. I helped you to raise your own personal awareness of why it's important to do this so you don't become the weakest link in your own business. And number 3, provided 5 practical strategies that help you to reverse the impact of unexpressed sadness. Because the entrepreneur's journey is to recognize the connection between your thinking, your feeling, and your action. Recognize those cycles and those habits and those patterns and minimize the negative effect in your business. Because we don't grow the business, we grow the owner. And remember that I have these free resources for you, the 6 negative thinking habits and patterns, and also then the 40 negative thoughts that are just bad for business. And finally, the first aid kit, which I will send to you as well. If you need that, please just contact me and I will get that to you. And I've got my details coming up in a second, but get in touch with me if you recognize that you need a new personal growth strategy. I do one-to-one coaching. I do group coaching programs too, and that's limited to about 6 people, so it can be a nice intimate group. So register your interest by emailing me or by DMing me on LinkedIn, and together we can minimize the impact that's happening in your business when it comes to negative emotions and especially sadness. And here are all my details. My website is joylangley.com. My email is joy@joylangley.com. My LinkedIn is Karen Joy Langley or just Joy Langley. You'll find me either way. And YouTube, I have a YouTube channel which I'm building, so please feel free to look at some of these trainings that are being put there too. Any more information that you need, do contact me. And I have my book, of course, Navigating Stress, which you can get from all good bookstores, including Amazon. And I think it's still a really good read, worth picking up. So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your company, appreciate you sharing, and I'll catch up with you soon because I know that you're going to have some questions. Please feel free to send these to me if you're watching this on the replay.